from our side, so it's just easier if, as you're calling in, mute your line. If you have questions throughout, either feel free to stop me and speak up, or Aaron Christian and Jackie Jacobson are with me today, and they'll be monitoring the chat box so they can flag questions for me or respond in the chat box for you guys. All right, so without further ado here, let's go ahead and get started. So our presentation today, again, we're going to be talking about on-site monitoring for neglected and delinquent programs and juvenile detention centers. And again, it's me, Dan Frummel, with Aaron Christian and Jackie Jacobson presenting today. Contact information, you'll see this two places on the PowerPoint, so we'll have it here. We'll also have it at the end. I'm hoping that most of you know how to get a hold of us already, but if not, here you go. And when the presentation is over, as monitoring comes up for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help you guys prepare in any way that we can. If you have any one-off questions, we're happy to help. Our agenda for today, we're going to talk about the purpose of the monitoring, and then we're really going to spend the bulk of the time talking about the procedures. So basically what to expect as we go through the process, preparing for it, going through it, and then following up afterwards. So the purpose of monitoring, I always like to start with why we're being monitored, because I know that whenever I have gone through a monitoring, I always like to know why I'm being monitored. Did I do something wrong, or is this part of the routine? And the good news for both of these are that they are routine monitorings. So for Title I-D and Title I-A neglected, we're required to evaluate those programs at a minimum of once every 3 years. And so if you are up for monitoring here, it is probably because you were not monitored in the past couple of years. The juvenile, the JDCs, they are being monitored every year at this point. If you look at the Juvenile Detention Center Board rules, it puts the authority on, or the responsibility on TDOE to conduct the monitoring. And so we have chosen to do that every year starting out. So for the first few years, we plan to do it every year, just so that we can make sure that we have a good pulse of what's going on and where supports might be needed. Again, the purpose of the monitoring, one of the main purposes is to ensure that it's compliant with state and federal law. And I'm just if you would care, just check, make sure your phone's on mute. We are getting a little bit of back there. We also want to highlight the strengths of the program. So one of our favorite things is going out and seeing the different programs there and being able to highlight programs that are doing a good job so that we can share those with other agencies in our different workshops that we conduct in the annual state conference. Identifying areas for improvement is obviously a portion of that. And then it also allows us to know where technical assistance, and then again to gather feedback from districts and facilities. This is always really important to us to hear what's working, what's not working, what we can do to help streamline the process. We heard a lot of concerns around special education in the juvenile detention centers last year from the districts, and so that's an area that we've gone forward in this year, trying to pursue some changes with the board rules. So we'll see if we are able to make something happen there. Okay, so the procedures for monitoring. So this is really the bulk of what we're doing. The first piece is that a notification email was sent on September 9th this past fall, letting you know the date that you're going to be monitored. In that, it also stated what programs we are monitoring, because we really have two different types of monitoring going on. We have the Title I-D and Title I-A neglected monitoring. That's a federal monitoring under ESSA to make sure that everything's in alignment there. And, excuse me. And then we also have the JDC monitoring, which is monitoring for the state law. So some districts are going to be monitored for N&D. Some districts are going to be monitored for the juvenile detention centers. And then some districts are lucky enough that they get to have both monitoring wrapped up in one. And so that gets a little bit confusing as we go through that when we have multiple monitorings going on at once. But so far they've worked pretty well, and the feedback we've received is that as much as people like us, it's nice to get the monitorings over in one visit instead of stretching it out into a fall visit for one and a spring visit for the other. Following this presentation later this week, you're going to receive a couple documents from us. They'll most likely be coming from Jackie Jacobson. You're going to receive an agenda that will let you know what time we plan on arriving at the facility for monitoring. And then you're also going to receive a checklist that includes a lot of the information that we're talking about today, just kind of a good reminder of different things to think about as you're going into the monitoring and preparing for the monitoring. The big change for this year is that, as opposed to last year, all of our monitoring is now embedded in our ePlan system. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. One of the first things is that all the documentation is, instead of emailing or having everything ready for on-site review, all of the documentation is going to be uploaded into the monitoring instrument in ePlan. The nice thing about this is that it really kind of helps to provide organization for you built into it, where you can easily go back and look and make sure that if you thought, did I upload that document? You can look and you can see it there. The other really nice thing about this is that it allows us to do a lot of pre-work before we ever get to the program. When you answer the questions beforehand, and upload the documents, we're able to review all that. We try to do that 2 weeks out from monitoring to make sure that everything is uploaded in there, and it has made the process a lot more efficient. So we don't have to spend as much time asking some really basic questions when all that information is uploaded for you beforehand. The process for specifically how to go through this ePlan document and how to fill out the different sections. We recorded a webinar on that, and we're going to send that out to you all as well. You might have received it in the fall as well. And that way you can kind of work through that on your own pace, or when you get to a particular section that maybe you're having trouble with, you'll have a resource to consult with. And it's very just technical assistance based, how to work through ePlan, how to upload the different documents. And again, the three of us are here for assistance. So if you get to an area and you're stuck, give one of us a call, and we're happy to hop on a conference call or a WebEx and walk you through it. Okay, if you have tuned me out for any of this presentation, I ask you to please pay attention to this section here. In order to use ePlan, you have to have the appropriate permissions. You have to have the monitoring permissions for ePlan. And so some of you might already have this, as many of you already serve in the capacity of the Federal Programs Director. But if you do not have regular access with ePlan, or you don't know what I'm talking about when I say ePlan, please pay attention here. You're going to want to make sure that you go onto ePlan, that you go under TDOE resources, and that you access this ePlan user access form for LEAs. That's what the form looks like. You're going to fill it out. If you're not the LEA authorized representative, which is usually the director of schools, or the ESSA director, or the IDA director, then you're going to choose this last one that's just simply called monitoring update. You're going to fill out that form, send it into the eplan.help@tn.gov. Melissa will process that form and give you permission so that you can then access the monitoring document and go through it. It takes her maybe about 48 hours to do that when she's really busy, so just kind of allow a little leeway for that. But if you do nothing else this week in preparing for monitoring, just make sure you have the access, because we're trying to learn from our mistakes, and we've had a lot of things come down to the wire with other districts that didn't realize that permission was needed. So make sure you have that monitoring update. The other area that we've seen some snags on is after you've completed putting in all your information into the monitoring document, because this is an ePlan, it then goes up to the IDA director in your school system to approve it, and then up to the ESSA director to approve it, and then up to the LEA authorized representative. So my word of advice is to start early on this process so that you can make sure it gets through those different levels of review. We had a couple districts that came into crunch time, and it was right around fall break, and so one or more of these positions were off for fall break, and it became very difficult to get the document approved. So another area in the IDEA you want to?
Be aware the IDEA director does not necessarily have monitoring access.
So the other area that we had run into is that a lot of times the IDA directors do not have monitoring access on ePlan, and so they might need to have that monitoring access added in order to be able to approve the document. We saw that in about 90%, I think, of the monitoring documents from last time. So those are my words of advice. Again, if you start early, give one of us a call. We're happy to help walk you through it.
And this follows the same path that your CFA budget revisions follow. So whoever has to click for your CFA budget revisions in order to get it up to TDOE, those are the same people that will have to click for the monitoring document.
It might have just been feedback, but I do want to pause. Does anyone have questions about that monitoring document or how to get access to ePlan? All right, so again, district contacts must submit the ePlan user form and receive access at least one month prior to the on-site visit. Just please, again, prioritize that, and I think it'll save a lot of headaches in the end. Please make sure put an invite on your calendar or a reminder on your calendar to get the documents in beforehand. Again, it allows us to do our homework before coming out to visit you all, and really just, I think, makes for a much more productive and efficient visit. It's really been a lot more streamlined this year because of that. Okay, so that's all the pre-work stuff. Now when we actually get on site for the monitoring, all the monitorings are going to take place on site at the facility. So if you were monitored last year, for a lot of districts, we would meet at the central office and then drive over to the facility. We find that it just, again, has been a bit more efficient for us all just to meet at the facility, ask all the questions there, and that seems to have been working better. We asked that there's a private designated space planned for the monitoring, for the interviews. If that's not available at the facility, because I know that some are really tight on space, just let us know. We'll work with you. If it does make more sense to meet at the central office, we can absolutely do that. And there have been a couple this year where we've made that exception because the facility was so tight on space. You can expect 2 to 4 members of the department to participate in the monitoring process. So again, just when you're thinking about space to plan for. For the JDC monitorings, the required personnel would be the point of contact for the Juvenile Detention Center and then the JJ point of contact for the school district. So we do like to have the facility personnel represented there as well, because we understand that a lot of things end up being joint responsibility, especially when it comes to students' attendance or maybe participation in class, behaviors and things like that. And then the district, you guys are welcome to invite whoever else you think would be helpful in answering the questions. They are more than welcome to join us in the fun. For the neglect and delinquent monitorings, the neglect and delinquent coordinator for the district should be present, and the neglect and delinquent coordinator for the facility should be present as well. And again, districts are welcome to invite whoever else they feel would be appropriate for the visit. You can expect that. I'm sorry, was there a question there? Okay. The interviews, you can expect that they'll take approximately 1 hour for the neglect and delinquent interviews and 2 hours for the juvenile detention facilities, and that's per facility. So if there's multiple NND facilities, then obviously it'll take longer. Copies of all required evidence must be uploaded into ePlan. Again, that makes a much easier way to track it. And then for the juvenile detention centers only, the educational service plans, we want to review them, but please do not upload those to ePlan. You can just upload a document that says that these will be reviewed on site, and that keeps us from sharing confidential student information. We don't want that posted to ePlan. We'll review those on site. So again, the educational service plans, that'll be the one piece of documentation that we do review on site. And then for the juvenile detention centers, another piece that's been added for this year is that we like to do student interviews while we're there. If possible, we like to do them with minimal personnel involved other than our staff, but I understand that there needs to be a security present for that as well. Those interviews take 5 to 10 minutes at most, and we like to interview students that have been in the facility instructional days or more, and if there are not any that have met that benchmark, then it would just be the next longest students. Again, if they're appropriate and safe to participate in an interview. And then at the end of the monitoring process, we will conclude the visit with a tour of the facility. All right, and then the last section, following the monitoring, we will review the documentation and interview responses, and we'll submit the results to the Federal Programs and Oversight, and it'll go through another round of review, and then we will set up a monitoring exit conference that says on-site, that's not really on-site, will be set up via WebEx. So we'll be sharing all the results 2 to 3 weeks after the visit via WebEx, and then once we go over that and we all agree upon the document, it will be, you will be able to access that document in ePlan. And when you're working through, this is actually the next slide here, when you're working through any compliance findings that you have, all the documentation, again, will be uploaded into ePlan. Again, this has been, we've gotten great feedback on this. It's been much more user-friendly because you can see the exact date you submitted something, exactly where it is. We're both looking at the same screen at all times, and that's been very helpful. Another nice thing is that the ePlan will email you as compliance items come due as well. Again, our contact information, if you don't already have it, is included in this PowerPoint as well. And reach out to us if you have any questions as you come across things. All right, I want to try to keep this brief and to the point, and hopefully I achieved that. If I do want to pause here, and if anyone has any questions, we want to take a moment to answer them. So again, if you'd like to talk, you can talk, or if it's easier for you to chat in there, Aaron and Jackie are monitoring the chat rooms, and we'll respond to any questions, and that's you're there. Okay, I don't see any questions there. Again, our contact information is there. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us individually, and we're happy to assist. And we look forward to seeing you all and working with you all this semester. Thank you very much.
Thank you.